As another year approaches, many people don't feel excited. They feel heavy. Not because life gave them too little, but because they kept carrying too much. Unquestioned habits. Unexamined routines. Expectations they never chose, but kept honoring. Attachments that once felt useful, even necessary, but now quietly drain their energy. Most people respond to this feeling the same way. They try to add more. More goals. More plans. More pressure to fix themselves. Stoic philosophy takes a different path. It teaches that strength doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from removal. From the discipline to cut what no longer serves you, even when it's familiar. Even when it feels safe. Even when it once worked. Before you enter 2026, this matters more than most people realize. Because habits built now don't just shape next year. They quietly decide the direction of the rest of your life. The most exhausting things in your life are rarely dramatic. They are subtle. They blend into daily routines. They feel normal until one day you notice how tired you've become. This isn't about reinventing yourself. It's about lightening the load you've been dragging forward year after year. The Stoics believed clarity appears when you stop clinging. Peace returns when you choose deliberately. And freedom begins the moment you decide that some things no longer deserve space in your life. Here are 9 things to cut before 2026. Not to become someone new, but to return to who you were meant to be. Most people underestimate how much of their life is shaped by the quiet need to be approved of. Not admired. Not respected. Just approved. It shows up in small ways. You hesitate before speaking honestly. You soften opinions that matter to you. You explain yourself even when no explanation is owed. At first, this feels harmless. It feels polite. It feels flexible. It feels like being easy to deal with. But over time, something subtle happens. Your choices stop being guided by judgment and start being filtered through reaction. Will this upset someone? Will this make me look bad? Will this cost me acceptance? From a Stoic perspective, this is one of the most exhausting ways to live. Because the moment you depend on approval, you surrender control. Your peace becomes conditional. Your confidence becomes borrowed. And borrowed confidence is fragile. The Stoics were clear about this distinction. Your character is within your control. Other people's opinions are not. Yet many people reverse this order. They protect opinions and neglect character. They adjust themselves to remain palatable, even when it costs self-respect. This is why approval is dangerous. It doesn't arrive loudly. It settles quietly. It disguises itself as cooperation, politeness, or being reasonable. But the cost accumulates slowly, often unnoticed. You begin to feel invisible in your own life. You sense a gap between who you are and how you act. And that gap erodes trust in yourself over time. Stoicism does not ask you to be cold or confrontational. It asks you to be anchored. When actions are guided by values instead of validation, discomfort loses power. Rejection becomes survivable. And clarity replaces anxiety. Before 2026, this is worth cutting. Not connection. Not relationships. But the reflex to seek permission before standing firmly in who you are. A simple practice helps. Before you explain yourself, pause. Ask whether this explanation serves truth or approval. If it serves approval, let the silence stand. You don't need to convince others to live with integrity. You only need the discipline to practice it consistently. When approval is removed from the equation, self-respect has room to grow. Comfort rarely feels like a problem at first. It feels earned. It feels reasonable. It feels like relief after effort. But comfort becomes dangerous when it turns unconscious. You stop choosing it. You start defaulting to it. You take the easier route not because it's wise, but because it's familiar. You delay effort. You postpone discomfort. You tell yourself there will be a better time. From a Stoic view, this is how strength erodes quietly. Not through chaos. Not through failure. But through softness that goes unchallenged. The Stoics never argued against rest. They argued against indulgence that dulls the will. There is a difference. Rest restores you so you can act again. Unchecked comfort trains you to avoid action altogether. You can see this pattern Eve. Ryware, cutting destructive comfort doesn't mean living harshly. It means choosing effort deliberately. Simple practices matter. Do the difficult task first. Sit with mild discomfort instead of escaping immediately. Stay present when your instinct is to withdraw. These small acts rebuild inner authority. Not because suffering is the goal, but because avoidance no longer decides for you. When comfort stops governing your behavior, clarity returns. And with clarity comes a quiet confidence that doesn't depend on ease to survive. Not every relationship that lasts is healthy. Some persist simply because they've existed for a long time. History can feel powerful. Shared memories. Shared struggles. Familiar roles. But history alone is not a reason to keep granting access to your time, energy, and attention. Many people sense this quietly but ignore it. They feel tense after certain conversations. They feel smaller after certain interactions. They feel obligated instead of connected. From a Stoic perspective, this is not loyalty. It is neglect of self-respect. The Stoics believed your inner state is worth protecting. Not aggressively. Not defensively. But deliberately. When a relationship consistently leaves you depleted, distracted, or resentful, balance is being violated. This does not mean cutting people off impulsively. Stoicism is not emotional withdrawal. It is emotional clarity. Some relationships survive on habit, not mutual growth. Others rely on who you used to be, not who you are becoming. And some remain intact only because change feels uncomfortable. But avoidance has a cost. When draining relationships remain unchecked, energy has less room to recover. Attention fragments. Patience shortens. The inner world grows noisy. The Stoics warned against this disturbance. They understood that peace is fragile when surrounded by constant friction. Complaining often feels harmless. Sometimes it even feels justified. You're tired. You're frustrated. You're reacting to circumstances that don't seem fair. At first, complaining feels like release. Like honesty. Like relief. But over time, something subtle shifts. Complaining stops being expression and becomes rehearsal. From a Stoic perspective, repeated complaining without responsibility does not lighten the mind. It trains it. Each complaint reinforces a quiet belief that something outside you controls your inner state. Your mood. Your peace. Your sense of agency. The Stoics never denied hardship. They denied the usefulness of surrendering authority to it. There is an important distinction they made that many people miss. Observation strengthens judgment. Complaint weakens it. Observation asks, what is happening? What is within my control? What response is required? Complaint asks something else entirely. Why is this happening to me? Why won't this change? Why doesn't someone else fix it? The difference may seem small, but the outcome is profound. A life filled with complaint feels heavy. Not because circumstances are unbearable, but because the mind feels powerless within them. Over time, this habit shapes identity. You begin to see yourself as someone reacting to life rather than directing it. Energy drains. Clarity fades. And responsibility feels distant. Before 2026, this is worth cutting. Not awareness. Not standards. But the habit of verbalizing frustration without converting it into response. A simple practice helps restore alignment. When you catch yourself complaining, pause. Ask what response is available to you right now. If there is one, act quietly. If there is none, practice acceptance deliberately. Stoicism does not demand silence. It demands responsibility. When complaints turn into decisions, something changes internally. Energy returns. The mind regains traction. And noise that once drained you begins to dissolve. Much of modern exhaustion comes from a single mistake repeated daily. Trying to manage outcomes that were never yours to command. You replay conversations. You predict reactions that haven't happened. You worry about decisions other people may or may not make. This feels like preparation. In reality, it is self-imposed pressure. The Stoics named this clearly. Some things are within your control. Some things are not. Confusing the two is where peace erodes. When attention clings to what you cannot govern, the mind never rests. It stays alert. Tense. Reactive. Not because danger is present, but because control is imagined. Overthinking is often mistaken for intelligence. But most of the time, it is resistance wearing the mask of analysis. You think instead of act. You analyze instead of decide. You anticipate instead of respond. From a Stoic perspective, this disperses effort. And dispersed effort weakens discipline. Before 2026, this pattern is worth cutting. Not responsibility. Not care. But fixation on outcomes you cannot secure. A grounding practice restores clarity. When a worry appears, name it honestly. Is this within your judgment and response, or outside it? If action is possible, take one measured step. If not, release it deliberately. This is not indifference. It is discipline of attention. When effort is placed only where it belongs, energy concentrates. Decisions become cleaner. Responses grow steadier. Freedom does not come from controlling everything around you. It comes from controlling where your effort goes. Very few people feel truly alone anymore. And that is part of the problem. Your attention is constantly being pulled. Notifications. Messages. Headlines. Opinions you never asked for. Each input feels minor on its own. Together, they fragment the mind. From a Stoic perspective, attention is not trivial. It is one of your most valuable assets. Where attention goes, life follows. When attention is scattered, judgment weakens. When judgment weakens, decisions become reactive. And when decisions are reactive, inner control dissolves. The Stoics lived without screens, but they understood distraction deeply. They warned against a mind that never settles. A mind pulled from stimulus to stimulus without choice. Digital noise trains exactly that state. You check without intention. Consume without direction. React before reflecting. Over time, this creates a specific kind of fatigue. Not physical. Mental. You feel busy yet unfocused. Informed yet unclear. Connected yet strangely distant from yourself. Before 2026, this deserves deliberate correction. Not rejection of technology, but removal of unconscious consumption. Stoicism does not ask you to withdraw from the world. It asks you to engage it deliberately. A simple shift changes everything. Decide when you will give attention, and when you will protect it. Create moments of intentional quiet. Remove inputs that add noise without meaning. When interruptions decrease, something surprising happens. Thoughts deepen. Emotions stabilize. Decisions slow in a constructive way. When attention is reclaimed, inner authority returns. And with it comes a calm that no notification can provide. There is a quiet form of fear that doesn't look like panic. It looks like postponement. You tell yourself you need more time, more information, better conditions. On the surface, this sounds reasonable. Beneath it, something else is happening. You already know what needs to be decided. You're just hesitating to accept the responsibility that comes with deciding. From a Stoic perspective, not all waiting is wisdom. Sometimes waiting is avoidance dressed as patience. Hard decisions create inner tension because they close doors. They end uncertainty. They demand ownership of consequences. That discomfort is precisely why delay feels tempting. People stay in situations they have outgrown. They tolerate routines that quietly drain them. They avoid conversations that would bring clarity, because clarity would require action. Over time, delay compounds. The decision doesn't disappear. It lingers. It occupies mental space. It fragments attention. It drains energy quietly, sitting unresolved in the background of the mind. The Stoics warned against this kind of inner debt. Unmade choices weaken discipline before action even begins. Before 2026, this is something worth cutting. Not caution. Not thoughtfulness. But the habit of postponing what you already understand. A stabilizing practice helps restore coherence. When you notice a decision you've been avoiding, ask what you are actually afraid of losing. Name it without judgment. Then ask a second question. Is the cost of delay lower than the cost of action? In most cases, it isn't. Stoicism does not promise comfort after decisions. It promises relief. Once a choice is made, mental weight lifts. Energy returns. Forward motion becomes possible again. Clarity rarely arrives before action. It follows it. One of the most difficult things to cut from your life is not a habit, a possession, or even a relationship. It is an identity. Not the one you consciously chose, but the one you slowly inherited. The version of yourself that once made sense. Once protected you. Once helped you survive a different season of life. Many people mistake holding on to this for integrity. They believe consistency means staying the same. From a Stoic perspective, this is a misunderstanding. Character must remain stable. Identity must remain flexible. When you cling to an outdated identity, inner tension appears. You feel it as restlessness. As quiet frustration. As the sense that you are performing rather than living. This is how fragmentation begins. You keep being the dependable one long after it drains you. You remain the agreeable one long after it costs honesty. You keep being strong when rest would now be the wiser expression of strength. Stoicism does not romanticize sameness. It values coherence. When actions no longer reflect inner values, effort increases. You monitor yourself. Edit reactions. Suppress expression. Over time, this performance becomes exhausting. The gap between inner reality and outer behavior widens. And that gap erodes self-trust. The Stoics warned against this erosion. They believed a steady life requires alignment between values and action. Before 2026, this is worth facing honestly. Which version of yourself are you maintaining out of habit? Where are you defending an image instead of expressing truth? Letting go of an old identity feels risky because it removes predictability. Others may respond differently. Expectations shift. But discomfort in others is not always a signal to retreat. Often, it is a sign that you are no longer living on autopilot. An identity that no longer fits creates resistance to expression. That resistance is information. Notice where effort increases unnaturally. Notice where relief appears when no one is watching. Those moments reveal where identity has become performance. Letting go does not require announcements or confrontation. It happens quietly. You speak more directly. You stop over-explaining. You allow others to adjust instead of adjusting yourself first. When an outdated identity is released, something stabilizing occurs. Energy returns. Decisions feel cleaner. You no longer have to remember who you are supposed to be. You simply act. One of the most persistent illusions people live under is the belief that time is abundant. Not infinite, but sufficient. Enough to delay. Enough to revisit later. Enough to postpone discomfort today. This illusion rarely announces itself loudly. It whispers. You'll do it next year. When things calm down. When you feel more ready. From a Stoic perspective, this assumption is dangerous. Time is not something you possess. It is something you pass through. The Stoics spoke often about mortality, not to provoke fear, but to sharpen judgment. Awareness of limits creates precision. When time feels unlimited, urgency dissolves. Choices lose weight. Days blur together. Important conversations are postponed. Necessary changes are avoided. Meaningful decisions are deferred. Not because you don't care, but because you believe there will always be another opportunity. Most regret does not come from reckless action. It comes from inaction justified by imagined time. People tolerate dissatisfaction because it feels manageable today. They ignore inner warnings because nothing has collapsed yet. But not yet slowly becomes too late. Stoicism asks you to confront this gently, not anxiously. You are not promised a future moment where courage feels easier. You are not guaranteed a version of yourself that will act more decisively later. What you have is now. And the capacity to choose deliberately within it. This awareness is not meant to create pressure. It restores clarity. When time is recognized as finite, trivial concerns lose power. Distractions shrink. What matters becomes visible. Before 2026, this illusion is worth cutting. Not planning. Not patience. But the assumption that you will always have more time to live deliberately. Ask yourself what you are tolerating that you would not tolerate if time felt real. Notice repetition without movement. Patterns without progress. Repetition without direction is often postponed courage. The Stoics believed urgency does not destroy peace. Avoidance does. When time is respected, presence deepens. Decisions gain weight. Meaning replaces comfort. Stoic philosophy was never designed to make life softer. It was designed to make it clearer. Steadier. Less dependent on circumstances. If there is one quiet lesson beneath everything you've heard, it is this. Most of what weighs you down was not forced on you. It accumulated slowly. Through habits you never questioned. Roles you kept playing. Delays that felt harmless at the time. The Stoics understood that suffering often comes not from events, but from what we refuse to release. They did not chase constant improvement. They practiced intentional reduction. As 2026 approaches, the task is not to reinvent your life. It is to stop carrying what no longer belongs to you. This does not require dramatic gestures. It requires honesty. One decision you stop postponing. One habit you no longer justify. One attachment you loosen, not in anger, but in clarity. You do not need certainty to begin. You do not need perfect timing. You only need the willingness to act without waiting for comfort. Peace is not found in control. It is found in alignment. When actions reflect values, the mind settles. When they don't, no amount of distraction brings rest. Before 2026 arrives, allow yourself this discipline. Cut what weakens you. Keep what strengthens you. Not to become louder. Not to become busier. But to move forward lighter, clearer, and deliberately in control of your direction. Cutting is not loss. It is selection. And every time you choose what remains, you reclaim presence, direction, and inner authority.